This is CBC Winnipeg News.
Good evening. Thanks for joining us. Wait times for MRIs in Manitoba are at some of the highest levels in years. The timeline to get in has surged in our province, with thousands of people left waiting more than 6 months. Tonight, we continue our health series, Vital Signs, looking at the state of healthcare after 2 years of the NDP government. CBC's Rosanna Hempel brings us one woman's story waiting for the scan and Manitoba's plan to shorten those waits.
And unfortunately, my dog came running right around and smacked right into the side of my leg. Everything twisted in a way that knees are not meant to twist.
Nikita Lindenberg's knee injury landed her in the ER right after Christmas.
So this is the beastie they put me in right out of the ER.
X-rays came back showing no breaks or fractures. She says doctors did not order an MRI due to the long wait and said her injury would likely resolve itself by the time she got the test. 8 months later, her knee is still in pain from daily swelling. So she pushed for an MRI and recently received this letter.
Well, it's actually the 4th of March of 2026. There was like a second of like, I'm so disappointed. And then there was a moment of, this is ridiculous. My injury is going to be over a year old before I finally get answers.
Lindenberg is among an average 28,000 Manitobans waiting for an MRI in 2025. Provincial data suggests annual median waits have gone up from 20 weeks in 2023 to 26 weeks so far in 2025. It comes after nearly 2 years since the Manitoba NDP were elected on a promise to fix the healthcare system. The Canadian Association of Medical Radiation Technologists says a few factors could be behind the rise, including aging equipment, high burnout among staff, and the way technologists are trained in Manitoba.
We feel as MRTs, the public has the perception that we're not working hard, and we really are. We really want to have patients get the scans that they need in a really timely fashion. Giving us the resources we need to do that is essential.
Manitoba has 14 MRI machines, along with a mobile MRI service that began seeing patients in Thompson in June. Health Minister Uzoma Asoguera says the province is looking to add more equipment.
Whether it's Portage Place or other locations, we're going to be adding more MRI capacity. But again, we've added the mobile MRI in the north. That's a huge addition, and it redirects hundreds of people away from MRIs in Winnipeg. But there's more work to be done. We need to retain and we need to train more technologists.
Asaguera says they're also working with post-secondary institutions to fast-track pathways for training. Red River College Polytech is the only school in Manitoba and Saskatchewan offering MRI training. It has 10 seats and has recently been graduating 5 MRI technologists annually.
Oftentimes lunging.
As for Lindenberg, she's continuing physiotherapy, although they've told her it'll be hard to provide the best treatment without an MRI.
I would like to know what I've done wrong to my body and make a plan going forward, because right now there is no plan.
She hopes by next year her life will be closer to normal, but until then, she waits in limbo. Rosanna Hempel, CBC News, Forest, Manitoba.
They run into burning buildings and save people during the worst times of their lives. Firefighting is a high-stress job where crews are often put in dangerous positions. But it's a different danger that too many firefighters struggle with alone, a trauma that some are now looking to fight together. CBC's Mike Arsenault has that story.
Step by step, they're walking with purpose. Firefighters together to help their own. Started by one man, now 10 others are helping complete, raising money for firefighters struggling with mental health issues, a struggle Andrew Churchill knows all too well.
I wanted to go to the burning building, the car accidents, and those types of calls. I was preparing for that.
But there were some things he could never prepare for. A call that turned out to be his dad, who didn't make it.
I was one of the first people on scene to start CPR on him, and I didn't have a lot of training.
It's those medical calls, he says, that can take the biggest toll. So he decided to walk across Manitoba to raise money for firefighters dealing with trauma.
I know the Winnipeg Fire Department had just lost Preston close to that time, and I thought maybe I could do it in his honor.
Preston Heinbigner was a Winnipeg firefighter who died by suicide in 2024 after struggling with post-traumatic stress from things he'd seen on the job. Preston's family set up the Preston Heinbigner Memorial Fund. It covers the cost of a resilience program in BC for firefighters struggling with mental health challenges. Nick Casper says high call volumes is one of the biggest contributors to mental health struggles for firefighters.
We have trucks doing 8,000 calls a year. That's unheard of in the industry. And every single one of those calls represents exposure.
Casper says the department lost thousands of hours last year due to sick time. He met up with Churchill during his walk, and the journey was taking a toll on him.
I pulled up, and his shoes were untied, and his shin is taped up, and he's limping along, and he looked terrible. But not even a question, he wanted to continue.
Churchill couldn't go any further, so he looked to his colleagues for help. He got 10 firefighters to help him finish, and when they divided the remaining kilometers among them, it worked out to 19.77 each, which was Preston's regiment number.
As disappointing as it was for me not to finish the job myself, to be able to have everyone step up and the extra awareness it's bringing to the topic of PTSD and firefighter mental health is awesome, and it maybe was a blessing in disguise.
Churchill and his colleagues will finish the walk on Sunday at the Ontario border. He's already raised more than $20,000 and will be accepting donations until the end of the month. Mike Arsenault, CBC News, Winnipeg.
Proposals to expand the Port of Churchill in northern Manitoba could bring an increase in shipping traffic and commercial activity. Some experts fear it could drive belugas away and impact whale behavior. In turn, it could risk a major part of Churchill's ecotourism industry and a primary source of food for many northern Indigenous communities. With more, here's the CBC's Justin Fiacconi.
Every summer, thousands of beluga whales congregate in the Churchill estuary. They can be seen mingling among paddling tourists, trying to make new friends. For decades, they've been a major draw to Churchill's $100 million tourism industry. However, expansion plans for the Port of Churchill could risk pushing the whales away. Dr. Stefan Peterson of the Assiniboine Park Conservancy says whales will likely stop using that area if it becomes too noisy. Noise that would come from an increase in shipping traffic.
So belugas are considered the canaries of the sea by many. So they're considered that because vocalizations make up a huge part of the way they interact, the way they find prey, the way they're communicating between calves and other beluga whales.
The whales move along the western Hudson Bay estuaries during the summer months to give birth in warmer waters, feed, and seek sanctuary from their predator, killer whales. They're also a source of food for Indigenous people living along the coastline. Johnny Mamgart grew up in an Inuit community in Arviat, Nunavut. He acknowledges port expansion would create more jobs, but still worries about his community.
It's also going to affect the people along the coast. The Inuit, they depend on sea mammals for food.
Brendan McEwen is the president of the Churchill Chamber of Commerce. He says these are the types of conversations he and his colleagues are having.
We're taking the necessary steps and working on a plan to ensure that all industries are viable going forward, and that our Indigenous cultures and that our species and our environment are taken care of.
McEwen says he's confident that port expansion can coexist with the belugas in the estuaries. There are also ongoing efforts between the policy and the research communities to help manage the situation as talks of expansion move forward. Justin Fiacconi, CBC News, Winnipeg.
All right, time now to bring in Riley Lachak. And Riley, those belugas look like they would be enjoying this type of weather right now. We've got another kick of the can of summer right now.
Yeah, one more push. I guess we can call this the overtime period of summer as we head into The first day of fall, certainly not feeling very fall-like. Look at some of these temperatures. Boy, oh boy, 29 degrees in Brandon this afternoon, 28 through Dauphin, Swan River, Gimli, 24. Winnipeg, we managed to push ourselves up to 26 degrees with some rounding there through the afternoon. Thompson at 20 degrees. A lot of these temperatures, 5, 6, 7 plus degrees above seasonal for this time of the year. Mostly sunny skies, a bit of thin high-level cloud here and there. There's a bit of a trough pushing across Saskatchewan that could maybe bring us a couple of scattered showers in extreme western parts of the province. Slight chance of that into the overnight hours. Overnight tonight, though, in Winnipeg, Red River Valley looking at clear skies. Maybe some fog patches overnight tonight. West winds at 10. That takes us into the morning hours. And Brittany, another pretty decent day tomorrow. 24 degrees. Mostly sunny skies. This trend continues. I'll have more on that when I come back in just a bit.
All right. Hello, fall.
Yeah.
Thanks, Riley.
You're welcome.
Why canola farmers may not see cash for their crops, the tariffs that are threatening an already tight margin. More on that next. Canola farmers across the prairies are on track to harvest a strong crop, but they fear they might not see a big profit if any, as tight margins are further squeezed by China's tariffs. Alexander Silverman shows us how farmers are coping.
Rob Stone is starting to harvest a promising canola crop. Mild weather helping his southern Saskatchewan fields grow abundant.
It's a nice, tidy surprise.
But this year's harvest, once ripe with potential profit, is full of disappointment. Chinese tariffs on canola are continuing to push down prices, with a nearly 76% duty on seeds imposed last month, cutting off Canada's second largest buyer, a nearly $5 billion market.
It can be frustrating when you've got a strong crop.
So these tariffs for you are the difference between turning a profit and breaking even?
On canola, yes, and there's a lot of interactions on the farm balance sheet right now that are being affected by that. That really is the difference between profit, break even, or maybe a loss.
Despite tariffs, canola prices remain historically high, but the costs of running a farm are rising too.
The thing that has been paying the bills is barely making any money.
This expert says many producers facing already thin margins are now left trying to avoid a loss.
They might be looking at alternatives in the spring to grow something else, just because it's less expensive.
Ottawa is offering financial relief, interest-free loans of up to $500,000. But industry groups say those measures fall short.
If this thing drags out, farmers are going to need to be supported somehow to get them through this.
The longer that flowers, the better the yield prospect.
Choosing which crops to grow is becoming a challenge the longer the trade disruption lingers.
It's not simple, I get that, but it needs to be fixed.
The federal government says it's committed to working with the industry to find solutions. But producers say all of the canola coming out of their fields needs market access now. Alexander Silverman, CBC News, Davidson, Saskatchewan.
A coalition of seniors groups is pressing the province to make significant changes to assisted living, while also lobbying for expanded roles and power for the new incoming advocate. They want the new Seniors Advocate Office to have teeth when it opens November 1st. The advocate will operate independently and advise government about policies and programs related to home care and health care. When it comes to assisted living, they are concerned about the rising costs. They say rent at most privately owned facilities is $3,000 to $5,000 a month, but many seniors' monthly pensions are roughly $2,000.
It doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure out that the private market is not working in terms of assisted living for low and fixed income seniors. And I think that's one of the places we need to start, to say to this government, the old way of thinking was that assisted living was provided by the private sector. The new way of thinking is saying that it needs to be a mix.
Who will head up the office has not yet been released. The coalition says the advocate's office should have the same investigative powers as the children's advocate. Well, a maker of sweet treats finds herself in a sour situation. A chocolatier in St. Boniface says the city of Winnipeg is threatening to shut her down. They say the roof of her building isn't strong enough to handle snow loads. But she says the problem is being caused by a neighboring building, and it's a problem she warned the city about when it approved construction. CBC's Cameron McLean has more.
Inside Constance Pop's chocolate shop on Provencher Boulevard, it's business as usual. But hanging over their heads, a potential threat. The city says the building's roof can't support the weight of snow in winter. It declared the building unsafe and ordered owner Constance Menzies to reinforce the roof at her expense.
Snow and ice and they're falling onto your building. How is that my problem? When I'm saying, hey, you're building a building.
Menzies says her building is more than 100 years old and never had an issue with snow before. The problem, she says, is caused by the building next door. Menzies raised concerns at City Hall about the potential snow load when plans for the new building came forward for approval. The property committee approved the building with the condition that the developer work out an agreement to deal with the snow. Menzies says her messages to the developer went unanswered and they have no agreement.
I'm asking you what is wrong with this picture. I'm appealing to each of you here to support my appeal and rescind this order and put the responsibility back where it belongs onto the developer.
At an appeal hearing at City Hall on Monday, Menzies said the cost of the work would put her out of business. Some members of the committee questioned why the city approved construction of the neighboring building.
And we're ordering them to do this at their expense. And I have a problem with that.
In the end, the committee denied the appeal and upheld the order after lawyers warned the city faced liability for any safety risks. A lawsuit between Constance Popp and the developer of 174 Provencher is expected to go to court in 2027. Cameron McLean, CBC News, Winnipeg.
Riley's back in, and boy, oh boy, the first day of fall, feeling like summer. But if you kind of rewind 24, 48 hours, it sure felt like fall on Saturday.
Oh, especially with the rain that we saw, not just here in Winnipeg, but certainly parts of the Red River Valley through the Interlake getting, in some cases, quite a bit of rain.
A good soaking.
As well. Yeah, exactly. Let's take a look at some of the numbers, because there was quite a range, even here in Winnipeg. Some parts of the city about 25 millimeters, some parts of the city into the 30 millimeter range. And no one part of the city, is what I'm trying to get at here, saw more than the other. It was pretty scattered across the city throughout the weekend. Just outside the city, though, into South Central and into the Red River Valley, St. Pierre, Jolie, 45 millimeters, about 40 in Morton, and just 8 in Portage la Prairie. So a pretty wide range across parts of southern Manitoba. We are entering now a very dry and a very stable weather pattern as we get through, not just this week, but this is a pattern that is looking like it will last till at least midweek next week. And we're talking temperatures above seasonal for this time of the year and mostly sunny skies. Case in point, Tuesday morning, mainly sunny skies virtually across all of the province, maybe a couple of stray clouds here and there, but really that's about it as we get through the day. On Tuesday into Wednesday, once again, mostly sunny skies, maybe some patchy fog once again into the early morning hours. And then our next weather maker is this cold front that pushes across southern and northern and central parts of the province later Wednesday. This could give us some showers, particularly along the Hudson Bay coast, really anywhere north of Flin Flon and Thompson, I think, into Wednesday has that chance of showers. And as this frontal boundary pushes through into Thursday, doesn't bring much in the way of precipitation, but you'll notice a dip in temperatures closer to seasonal, but still staying above seasonal for this time of the year. Do watch out into the early morning hours. There's some patchy fog, really into parts of northern Manitoba, Thompson, looking at some reduced visibility, potentially first thing in the morning, but certainly the southern central Interlake into the Red River Valley, into eastern Manitoba, and even northwestern Ontario, looking at the potential for that fog development first thing in the morning. You can see at 7 o'clock in the morning, visibility in Winnipeg down to 700 meters, more like a kilometer or so into Dryden, for example. So just be aware that if you're on the road early in the morning Tuesday, and I do think we have that chance again into early Wednesday morning, that we could run into some patchy fog or some dense fog in more open areas. Okay, temperatures, once that burns off into the afternoon hours tomorrow, mainly sunny skies. Temperatures again above seasonal for this time of the year. 24s for both Winnipeg and Brandon. Gimli 19 tomorrow afternoon on the water. 22s for Thompson and Gillam. Mostly sunny skies, and that trend, Brittany, continuing through the rest of the week. 26 for Wednesday, 22s and 23s into the first weekend of fall.
Look at that.
Yes.
Thank you, Riley.
You're welcome.
We have much more to come right after this. Stay with us. More countries are formally recognizing a Palestinian state at the United Nations. France, Belgium, and Malta are the latest to join the list after Canada, Britain, Australia, and Portugal announced it Sunday. But they're doing it despite strong opposition from the U.S. and Israel. Karina Roman has more from Washington.
I declare that today France recognizes the state of Palestine.
France joins a growing list of countries moving to recognize a Palestinian state. This comes as President Emmanuel Macron and Saudi Arabia host a two-state solution summit at the United Nations, a summit that both the U.S. and Israel are boycotting. But Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney says the move to recognize statehood is about keeping alive hopes for a two-state solution, especially as Israel pushes forward with settlements in the West Bank and threatening annexation in contravention of international law.
We have to push on this now because, as I say, the possibility in absolute violation of the UN Charter and an absolute violation of international law of self-determination for the Palestinian peoples is being erased.
The summit also comes on the heels of a UN report last week that found Israel had committed genocide in Gaza. Israel's ambassador to the UN says after October 7th, a two-state solution is off the table and that recognizing a Palestinian state rewards Hamas.
With all due respect to President Macron, the Elysee cannot give instructions to Hamas, so it's easier to come here, make statements, take pictures. They feel they are doing something, but they are not promoting peace. On the contrary, they are supporting terrorism.
The White House reiterated today that the president agrees with Israel.
He feels this does not do anything to release the hostages, which is the primary goal right now in Gaza, does nothing to end this conflict and bring this war to a close. And frankly, he believes it's a reward to Hamas.
Canada's conditions for statehood include the disarmament of Hamas and agreement from the Palestinian Authority to reform and hold general elections in 2026.
So it is a process that is growing. And all of those people are saying, since the end game is a two-state solution, why don't we invest in peace?
For now, the recognition of statehood is symbolic. Even Palestinians are skeptical of it leading to any real change on the ground, especially with the U.S. not on board. Karina Roman, CBC News, Washington.
Meantime, here in Winnipeg, hundreds of people came out to show their support for Palestine in a run at Assiniboine Park. It came as Canada announced it will officially recognize a Palestinian state. CBC's Felicia Adams spoke with people about what that means to them.
Music and song filled the air at the 4th annual Run for Palestine. Over 350 runners took part in this year's event. The day also marked by Canada's recognition of the Palestinian state.
It's a first step. There's many steps that need to be taken, but recognition is one for sure. And people need to know they are their own people, they're their own state, and they deserve the same rights we all enjoy.
In a statement from the Prime Minister's office, the decision is a way to ensure the peaceful coexistence of Israeli and Palestinian states, a path to preserve the possibility of a two-state solution.
The fact that it's taken 2 years, almost 2 years, for them to even officially recognize Palestine, to me is a little bit ridiculous.
Rob Cook and Carolee Fest were among the participants on Sunday. They both agree the decision is a step in the right direction, but more needs to be done.
It sends a message for the rest of the world. However, our governments need to be stepping up and doing their job.
The move comes after the Palestinian Authority committed to reforms, including the demilitarization of the state and general elections in the upcoming year where Hamas could not participate. The Israeli embassy in a statement say they are deeply disappointed by Canada's decision, that the move does not guarantee peaceful futures for Israelis and Palestinians, but only rewards Hamas.
Prematurely attempting to facilitate a two-state solution only sets back our efforts to create a lasting peace in the Middle East.
Richard Robertson is the Director of Research and Advocacy for B'nai B'rith Canada. While he believes in a two-state solution, he thinks the decision was rushed.
The two-state solution requires a democratic Palestinian state that has demonstrated its potential to work with its Israeli neighbors, and right now we simply don't have that.
Emma Feinblatt is part of Manitoba Friends of Standing Together, an activist group made up of people who are Jewish and Palestinian. The recognition of the Palestinian statehood, for her, is a positive step.
I have family in Israel. I care about them. I want them to be safe, and I don't think that the escalation of violence, that the invasion of Gaza makes them safer. And I think that the government of Israel right now is not acting in the interest of the citizens of Israel. It's not making them safer.
Alongside Canada, Australia and the UK have also announced they would recognize the state of Palestine. Felicia Adam, CBC News, Winnipeg.
Quebec manufacturing giant Bombardier is looking to grow its defense business as Canada and many other countries vow to boost their military spending. But as Philippe de Montagny reports, experts warn Bombardier may lack the expertise and production capacity.
Bombardier got out of trains and commercial planes 5 years ago to focus on private jets. But now it sees potential in defense.
Especially right now, the momentum is very high. You know, every country is increasing its spending, and we're going to be capitalizing on this over the next few years.
The Quebec company is already retooling some of its business planes for surveillance and other military uses and selling them to other countries.
So the Pentagon's a customer. You know, we have the Swedish, our customer. The French will now be a customer. So we have a lot of success internationally.
Will Canada be a customer?
I'm sure it's coming.
Bombardier is currently working with an Italian firm to develop maritime patrol aircrafts. It hopes these planes can replace the ones Ottawa recently purchased from Boeing, an American manufacturer.
The plan exists, okay.
But experts warn the company may lack the expertise and production capacity, including this former aerospace engineering officer with the Canadian Armed Forces.
We remember the C-series of Bombardier. This was very expensive. There were delays and so on. It's the same thing with Boeing and Airbus. Every time they develop a new plane, it's risky.
Not only that, the market for military planes is also relatively limited, and Bombardier is facing steep competition from well-established players.
They may have the technical expertise, but until you start selling and you have a critical mass of airplanes that you're producing annually to maintain and enhance that experience, it's going to be a rough ride. And then we got drones. That could be, and probably already are, a formidable competitor.
And we as a country, we can work together.
Bombardier's CEO, who helped rebuild the company and reduce its crippling debt, isn't afraid of the challenge.
We would be very proud of helping secure our country, but at the same time, it gives the opportunity to create jobs in the country and export these solutions.
Philippe de Montagny, CBC News, Toronto.
Changes are coming to the Canadian Football League starting next season. The modifications are meant to make games more consistent across different fields. As Thomas Dagg tells us, the new style won't replace everything that sets it apart from the NFL.
Canadian football is set to look a little more American, with the CFL announcing adjustments, bringing the league more in line with its mega popular rival, the NFL.
These types of idiosyncrasies have been in our game for a long time, but that doesn't have to be the case.
The changes will mean the CFL playing field gets shorter, down to 100 yards in length, just like the NFL. The end zones will be cut from 20 to 15 yards, but the Canadian field keeps its unique width, still 65 yards and wider than in the American game.
2 touchdowns and referee on the night.
The most visible change, though, comes to CFL goalposts, soon moved to the back of the end zone, just like south of the border.
To what extent are these changes due to the popularity of the NFL in Canada?
Absolutely no percentage of these changes were made because of any type of comparison to the NFL.
You don't want to just stand still and become stagnant, right? And so they're making changes that will augment the league.
Canadian gridiron purists took to social media, declaring tradition was just thrown out the window, and what made the CFL unique is no more.
It Americanizes the game. We're converging. You can see that the stage is being set for further convergence with American leagues.
Even the uniquely Canadian single point rouge will see changes, making it less likely. All of it intended to drive a more exciting game that now often appeals to an aging audience.
And it's changed that if this league is to remain relevant, particularly with Gen Zs, it has to do this.
The tweaks won't come into effect this year, but will be phased in by 2027. The league expects the changes to the goalpost alone will lead to an extra 60 touchdowns per season. Thomas Dagg, CBC News, Toronto.
Mass evacuations are underway in the Philippines as Super Typhoon Regasa is churning off the northeast coast of the country. A super typhoon is the equivalent to a Category 5 hurricane. Authorities describe it as potentially catastrophic, warning of widespread flooding and landslides. Government work and classes in large parts of the country are suspended. The storm also prompted preparations in nearby Hong Kong, Taiwan, and mainland China. Late-night talk show host Jimmy Kimmel will be returning to the airwaves Tuesday night. The Walt Disney Company says it decided to suspend Kimmel's show because of comments in a monologue last week that were, quote, ill-timed and thus insensitive. Those remarks were related to Charlie Kirk's killing. The company now says it will return Kimmel to air after, quote, thoughtful conversations with him. His suspension prompted concerns about free speech. Still to come, her life changed when she was just 6 years old. Now this Winnipeg teen is raising money in hopes of helping others who get a life-changing diagnosis. We'll have more on that straight ahead.
Hello, Steinbach. CBC News is coming to town for a special live across Canada broadcast with me. I'm Heather Hiscox. It's Thursday, September the 25th at 8 a.m. We hope you'll join us at the Southeast Events Center. We'll have a live broadcast with a national spotlight on Steinbach, followed by a power brunch and a special Q&A session. So visit cbc.ca/Manitoba and go to the community section to learn more.
Every day, more than 24 Canadians are told they have a brain tumor. It's a life-changing diagnosis that one Winnipeg teen got when she was just a child. Now, as a teenager, she's helping raise money and awareness for the disease. CBC's Zubina Ahmed has more.
At just 17, Bailey Miller is facing one of life's toughest battles. She has a brain tumor. Miller had epilepsy at the age of 6 and had her first MRI where a brain lesion was found. Over the years, the lesion grew and was eventually diagnosed as a tumor. Miller is turning her fight into a mission. By participating in the Brain Tumor Walk in Winnipeg, her aim is to raise funds for others affected.
It's very hard, but I got in contact, my mom got in contact with the Brain Tumor Foundation and found out there was a walk, so I went there. I met a lot of people who were a bit older than me, but still all had tumors, so it was nice to meet a community of people.
Through strength, resilience, and a sense of purpose, she has already raised nearly $19,000. She's currently second place in Canada for raising individual donations and hoping to be the first.
It's very scary having a brain tumor, but it's very nice that I have a community of people I can rely on, so I can ask people for advice or help if I need, and then I think we're going to try to find a support group as well.
Nicole Farrell, CEO of the Brain Tumor Foundation, says every day 27 Canadians are diagnosed with brain tumor. She says the walk is an opportunity to raise funds for research and support programs for patients.
It just reflects the courage and the determination that thousands of families across Canada have to go through, and really, brain tumors. We need a cure. We need a cure. We need to give people hope, and that's why we're here.
I know there's walks outside of the province, so maybe when I'm older, I can always go to those too.
Miller says her goal isn't just about fighting her disease; it's about making a difference by every dollar she raises. Zubina Ahmed, CBC News, Winnipeg.
He was found at just 10 weeks old, a kitten that somehow found itself an unlikely passenger on a ship carrying cars from Italy to Nova Scotia. A member of the Canadian Navy was there that day, and his family was quick to adopt the cat that's now known as Grim.
This is Grim. He is about 23 weeks old now, but we found him when he was about 8 to 10 weeks old. And he's now a part of our family after my husband found him on a shipping container coming from Savona, Italy. He was on the boat for 10 days. I'm not sure when they noticed him, but he obviously got on in Italy and made the full journey across the Atlantic. He was kind of like really dirty and covered in some sort of oil, and he was just really dirty and cold, and he's a little bit underweight. They were feeding him pasta, which is, as far as I understand, all they had to feed him, and is quite comical, obviously, coming from Italy. So definitely needed some food, some warmth, and a good bath, which was all gotten for him within the next couple of days. So we named him Grim. He was found on the Grimaldi line of shipping containers, and he is definitely well suited with that name. He is wild. We joke often that he must have been bred with some sort of squirrel, because he is all over the place. He climbs and literally hangs off of chandeliers. He is all over the place all the time. I am a sucker for a good story, and I just thought that it just all kind of fell into our lap. I've always really believed in fate and just the stars aligning in the right way, and it just seemed like he was just really made for us to find him that day.
Well, he's got to stick to that pasta diet now.
Yeah.
Maybe add in a little pizza.
It's that cat distribution system at work
It's working
again.
overtime, as you like to say.
You're right.
You know what? I feel like you always get the short end of the stick as a weather person when it's really cold and crappy weather. So hats off to you for this weather this week.
You know what? I'll take all the credit for it, especially if you're a morning dog walker, because we are looking at a nice one for that tomorrow morning. Tonight, we have Rocky from Minnedosa. Thank you, Teresa, for sending this picture in. You can send yours, as always, to talkback@cbc.ca. And really, whether you're in Winnipeg or you're in Minnedosa, we're looking at pretty similar conditions through the day on Tuesday. Nice start to the day, 13 degrees first thing in the morning with a light northwesterly wind into the mid-20s. I've got Winnipeg at 24, but you know what? Maybe we'll sneak a 25 out of that. We'll see where we get into the day tomorrow. 23 degrees even into the evening hours tomorrow. So we're looking at what I would characterize as a very pleasant Tuesday for the second, or I guess the first full day of fall as we get into the day tomorrow. Stepping back to Sunday very quickly, we did break some records, a few of them here across the province. Swan River 26 degrees, that record from 2023, but Churchill beating a record from 1987 yesterday, getting up to just about 24 degrees. Shoal Lake at 25, that's tying that record there from 1997. Let's just enjoy the sunshine from the top of our building just for a moment here. 26 degrees still in the city, a light variable wind. By this time in October 22nd, we'll see a sunset at 6:22. So it'll be dark by then at this point next month. So just enjoy it while you can. Across the province at the moment, 27 still through Brandon, Dauphin, 26 in Swan River, Thompson, 20 degrees, 20 to 22 into northwestern Ontario still. Overnight tonight, looking at the possibility of fog. Really, if you're anywhere east of Winnipeg, if you're on the Trans-Canada going into northwestern Ontario or Highway 6 up into the Interlake, do expect into the early morning tomorrow the potential for, in some cases, probably some dense fog. 12s, 13s across the Red River Valley through the Interlake, 8 to 11 across the west overnight. Mostly clear skies tonight, maybe a few clouds here and there. 8s in Flin Flon, Nepaw, OCN, 11 in Thompson, 12 in Gillam, above seasonal. Those are almost close to daytime highs for temperatures through this time of the year. And into the 20s again tomorrow. Shamattawa, 26 degrees tomorrow afternoon. 22 in Norway House, mostly sunny skies. Same for the south. Some fog first thing in the morning potentially. Then we're up to 22 to 24 degrees in the west. 26 into Pinawa, 21s through the Interlake, Brittany, and we're looking at temperatures in the mid-20s for northwestern Ontario as well.
All right. Thank you, Riley.
You're welcome.
Well, almanacs have long been considered a trusted source for weather forecasts, gardening advice, recipes, and other helpful information. The secret forecasting formulas are highly protected and are said to stand the test of time. CBC's Johanna Wagstaff has more.
These little books have promised long-range weather forecasts for about 230 years. But do they actually work? The oldest of the almanacs is the Old Farmer's Almanac, published in 1792.
You know, I think a lot of people wish it was folklore, like, you know, we took a chicken and spun it around or looked at the woolly bear caterpillars.
And that's what I assumed too, that it was folksy wisdom rooted in observational truth, red skies at night, that sort of thing. But it turns out the forecasts mainly come from sunspots.
The big thing that we do is look at the magnetic storm cycles on the sun. And then, of course, there's things we have to tweak. We know that we're on a warming planet. So what's happening there? How warm are the oceans? How cold are they? What's the polar vortex doing? We've been working with a team at AccuWeather for 40 years. And so they use our proprietary formula that takes into account the sunspot activity to make those long-range forecasts.
Now, sunspots do signal increased solar magnetic activity, but their effect on Earth's weather is tiny compared to factors like greenhouse gas emissions. I was pleasantly surprised to hear them acknowledge climate change, but folding it into a sunspot formula doesn't suddenly make the science stack up. Still, the Old Farmer's Almanac sells 2.5 million copies a year, 500,000 here in Canada.
As a confession, I enjoy the Farmer's Almanac. I love the recipes and the anecdotes and the antidotes and the commercials, but hey, I'd be sacrilegious to say that I consulted the forecasts.
The editors claim 80% accuracy for their winter forecasts, but
this one said that the coldest part of winter in Ontario is going to be mid to late December, early and late January, and early February. Hey, they've got the weather covered for the entire winter. How can they be wrong?
Independent checks show that when they do get specific, accuracy hovers near random chance. Meanwhile, science-based seasonal outlooks rely on ocean signals, decades of data, supercomputer models. They're improving, but only about 60% accurate with less detail. Seasonal forecasting is tough for everyone. But the thing is, people might not be looking for that kind of accuracy from an almanac.
We talk about phenology. So when the lilacs are coming out, it's time to plant the peas or the potatoes. You know, this idea that we can look at what's around us, and yes, there's a certainty to the shape of the seasons. And I think that is what people are craving, is this idea that we are part of something larger. You know, we're all connected by this earth. We're looking out for her. And we do that in different ways.
Whether it's a 200-year-old book or a weather app that you're checking for the long range, the key is staying connected to the natural and warming world around you.
Still ahead, the story behind this magical scene in Belgium. And no, this is not a movie. Stay with us. The RM of Lac du Bonny is giving thanks to those who helped with this past summer's devastating wildfire season. The Hearts and Heroes fundraiser raised money to bolster the community's fire response. Pinawa's fire chief says his crew helped in the area when the massive fire closed in back in May.
We spend a lot of time, personal time, making sure that our communities are are protected. We train hard, we fundraise, we do all kinds of things to make sure that our departments are successful. And it's really nice to see something like this where the community is really recognizing how valuable we are.
He says he'll never forget the overwhelming sight and destruction of the wildfire and how people came together. 2 people lost their lives.
So we're looking at a very decent day, pretty much no matter where you are in the province tomorrow. Maybe a bit of extra cloud cover through the afternoon into northern Manitoba, but for the south, 24 degrees in Winnipeg tomorrow afternoon. Watch for some fog patches, particularly south and east of the city and into the Interlake as we head into the morning hours tomorrow. Wednesday, 26 degrees. A cold front pushes through as we get into Thursday, knocks our temperatures back a bit, maybe a bit windy into Thursday as well. And then we're hanging around 22s and 23s right through the weekend and into early next week. And it looks like this trend will continue as we get toward even the beginning of October. A couple weather pictures from Allie. We have one that she took on Bannatyne Avenue here, and another one, gorgeous fall colors near St. Anne's and the perimeter. You can send yours to talkback@cbc.ca. Summer is now officially over. The end of the season, of course, means different things to different people.
Maybe it's harvest, cleaning out of the garden, or pumpkin spice lattes. But at a farm in northern Belgium, it means it's time to create tree art. Here's your daily lift. Hundreds of mature trees and shrubs are carefully pruned and trimmed to form whimsical shapes and unique proportions. Many have stood on Solitaire Farm for decades. It has about 500 different kinds of trees, including pines, ginkgo biloba, and magnolias.
Customers include tree enthusiasts, architects, and even film productions. So maybe you have seen this in a movie once or twice. Some of the trees are valued at more than $16,000. You'd have to have a lot of time and a lot of patience to get those trees to look like that.
That is a pretty penny.
It is.
It's a good thing they're pretty.
Yeah, I wouldn't be able to recreate that if my life depended on it.
No. Well, have a wonderful night. We'll see you back here tomorrow.
Have a good one.